Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever, good weekend. Hello, and welcome to the latest Forza Italian football podcast. As ever, I am your host, Conor Clancy, and I've got my two friends with me again. First up, Vito Doria. Vito, hello, hello.
Hello, Connor. Good to be back as always.
Always, mate. It's always good to see you. And also here
Thank
is
you.
the granddad, Kev Pogorzelski. Kev, hello.
Hi Connor, less of the granddad.
Well, you didn't help yourself with the way you joined this call this evening by having the camera facing your ceiling and you mumbling in the background. So
I was
you stop
readjusting
acting
my
like your
seating
granddad.
position.
Right, stop speaking and acting like a granddad, and I will stop calling you granddad. I think that's a fair enough trade, no?
Yeah, I do have grand nieces and nephews. But anyway,
Hey, you're not helping your cause, mate.
no,
You're really not helping. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent, fantastic. Right, let's dive straight into this. There was a big game this weekend, boys, and the result was painfully predictable because despite AC Milan taking a 1-0 lead at the Allianz Stadium, Juve, of course, came back and won 2-1. Kev, business as usual.
Yeah, it was business as usual with Juve, but in one way, I was a little bit disappointed in Milan, but in another, it kind of reiterated what we said in the last couple of weeks. It's just that I think with a little bit more quality, they can take a few of the chances that they had and maybe actually get the result that I wrote earlier in the week that I thought they might get because Juve would have an eye on the Champions League.
Yeah, I want to pull you on that because you were quite optimistic about this game, weren't you?
I was, and it was kind of 50% that Juve would be focusing on Champions League action this Wednesday, and then that Milan really needed to strengthen their own position in the Champions League. And I thought those two things would mean that Milan might walk away with a victory. I think it was a shame really that they didn't even manage to secure a draw in the end.
I was at in the press room at Parma when the teams came out for this. Whatever way the graphic for Juve was released, it was like Leonardo Spinazzola playing as a right winger. They had who else was it was a bit of a crazy setup from both teams, really. And everyone was saying, "Oh, this is just a friendly game. It's just a friendly game." But Vito, it turned out to be quite entertaining, really.
Yeah, it did actually. Usually you'd think it'd be a bit cautious, especially from the Juventus perspective, but Milan really had a good go at them. And we'll talk about the refereeing decisions later on, but I thought putting them aside, Milan had enough chances to score in open play themselves, especially with Piontek. He got the goal, but he probably had two or three other chances to add to that. And the much maligned Hakan Çalhanoğlu, he had two free kicks, and maybe if he was in his Bayer Leverkusen form, he probably would have put those in the back of the net too. So it's one of those games, even beside the polemics, I think Milan had enough chances and opportunities to get at least a point or maybe even the win.
For sure. It's quite funny about Çalhanoğlu because there was the one free kick in particular that hit the side netting and Milan fans thought it was in was very good. But he arrived and everyone described him as a free kick specialist. Has he scored one free kick since coming to Serie A? I'm not quite
Be
sure.
lucky to see one, if that.
Hmm.
But put it this way, someone like Arkadiusz Milik at Napoli these days is more of a specialist than him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be fair. Kev, I'm going to ask you possibly a difficult question because Juve are just about to win their eighth straight Scudetto. They've only lost once in Serie A this season, as well as losing to Atalanta in the Coppa Italia. Just had to say it. And they've got Cristiano Ronaldo. But how good are they?
I'm not sure. I don't even know if the Champions League shows this year because they overturned a two-goal deficit against a relatively underperforming Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. They've had no real pressure from anybody in Serie A to win the league. In a stronger season, you could have seen them relinquish the title because they are having something of a transition period. And but even next season, I don't see anybody strengthening enough for us to really know how good this current Juventus side are.
No, it's a really difficult one because we do often criticize them, and I'm gonna get into a conversation that's not going to be critical of them as well. But they seem to just win Serie A by default, and I know it's not their fault that they're the best team around by some distance. It's everybody else's, but they don't help themselves by being so boring to watch most weeks. Vito, what do you make of Juventus?
That's one of the main points. They are not the best team to watch. They really are, in a way, the quintessential Italian team. Just the classical build on your defense first, rely on individual talents to score enough goals, and then just let the other team play and then try to wear them out. It works in Italy, but I've said many times I think it's the downfall in Europe. And ultimately, it isn't all Juventus's fault. At least they have the Agnelli family or the holding group that's involved in providing finances. You've got Andrea Agnelli as the president, so that's there. But all the other clubs or significant clubs that had big owners in the 80s and the 90s, they don't have that anymore. So they've got to work on limited budgets. And it's up to the other squads to sort of realize they can't really compete with Juventus financially. They've got to focus more on working on limited budgets. And that can be coming down to a number of things, whether it be paying less for players or scouting for players in different places or more money into youth development, several other factors too. So, yeah, it'd be really stupid if other clubs tried to outspend Juventus or think they can just compete with Juventus just by spending more money, because it's not as easy as that.
I'd agree. I'll stick with you, Vito, but how much longer do you think this Juventus stranglehold on Serie A will continue for?
Look, where I see a bit of positives is that there are some young Italian players coming through, but they're coming from pretty much all over the place. So it's easy to think that Juventus will probably try and snap them up again. So that's probably one of the downside. To be honest, I think it's got to be something out of nowhere where it'd be more foreign investment, just non-Italian businessmen pumping more money into Italian football. The federation could introduce more regulations in regards to how clubs are run, or just something out of the ordinary. Another thing would be, just if someone just decides to change their methods, like instead of trying to spend money on players, maybe recruit in other countries that we're not looking at as much, or more focused on youth. And I'll quickly touch, without going too much on a tangent, historically, Serie A has looked at Brazil and Argentina for talent, and used to be great. They used to be great for finding players, but Serie A clubs can't afford the best Brazilians and Argentines now. One nation that has been a good place for Serie A clubs is Poland. And a few of these players are in their national teams. So maybe Italian clubs got to look more into Eastern Europe as opposed to the traditional scouting point of South America, because there are some good bargains, not just Christoph Piontek. And there probably are a few other hidden jewels that Serie A clubs haven't picked up on, and they should snap them up before Liga, Bundesliga, La Liga, or even EPL snap them up.
Yeah, well, you've seen Sampdoria quite closely do that, exploit the Eastern European market, and Napoli have kind of done okay from it as well. But Kev, do you reckon you'll live to see anyone else win Serie A?
Once again, I'm not that old.
I didn't.
No, I'd hope so, but I do fear that Juventus need to get significantly weaker for that to happen, as opposed to, maybe one of the Milanese giants coming through and challenging them. I think it's just a shame that last year, when Napoli ran them so close, that Napoli didn't pip them, because it might have given not only the other Italian clubs hope that they could do something similar, but also maybe that players that come into the league could see why it would be worthwhile signing for a Napoli, a Milan, an Inter, as opposed to just going where they're almost guaranteed to collect a trophy. So you think of the likes of Bernardeschi, we think about where Chiesa's going to go next year. Well, if he goes this year from Fiorentina, if he wants to win trophies, he's surely only going to look at Juventus if they were to make a move for him, or move abroad. And I think it's a shame. I think it's something that's also happening in France, where you've got PSG and then just those few teams below them. Nobody really wants to go there if they haven't got any chance of fighting for other trophies.
Yeah, well, on Chiesa, I think he'd be mad not to leave Fiorentina. I mean, they're closer to the relegation zone than Europe this year, which just seems crazy given how close they were for much of the season. But yeah, it's kind of not the best conversation, but we're going to have one very similar next week again, I'm sure, because Juventus will win Serie A away to Spal more than likely. But let's get on to the game then, Kev. Where shall we begin with this? Let's start with Christoph Piontek's goal, because it was a well taken finish. They were clinical, as he always is. Timu Bakayoko deserves a lot of credit for intercepting Bonucci's pass. But I want to talk about Piontek beyond his goal. He had a miss. I think it was before the goal as well. And the camera panned in on him, and he was laughing about it. He was smiling, and I really, really liked it, because it made me, the way he was behaving made me think, oh, okay, he knows that's his last miss and he's scoring next. And sure enough, he did the business. And even when he misses, he's still confident.
Yeah, I think there's an element of his age and the run of form that he's in that gives him that confidence. And also maybe a small part of you're away to Juve, you're not expected to win. Yeah, again, another one of the reasons why you kind of thought that there's no pressure on Milan if they were going to get a victory. There was no pressure on any of them, let alone Piontek. But he is sort of uber confident at the moment, so you can understand why he expects himself to gobble up the next chance, even if he misses another.
Right, let's get into it. Penalties. We'll start with Juve's. It was given. Musacchio was completely moronic. Vito, did you see it any other way?
To be honest, as much as I don't like Musacchio, I thought it was probably a tad harsh. Probably because I didn't think he was trying to maliciously tackle Dybala. I thought he got it. He got the ball. We tried to go for the ball, and then as he was sliding down, he managed to get Dybala too. But the way Dybala was running was like Dybala was cunning enough to sort of make a slight adjustment to run into him, and he knew he'd get the free kicks. I mean, the penalty. Sorry. So in that aspect,
of course,
that's
Dybala
where
do that though. A striker will always put his body in front of the ball, and if a defender is stupid enough to tackle him, he deserves to have a penalty given against him.
Yeah. Well, that's probably in the regard where Musacchio should have stayed on his feet, and more so because it is Juve. As I've said several times, and I'm sure everyone else has throughout previous episodes of the podcast, Juventus are going to get the benefit of the doubt. So, as the old saying goes, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So that's where everyone else in Italy's got to open their eyes.
I see what
you've got to look at every little situation. You always got to get it. So can't keep crying foul.
You can't keep crying foul. And if this was Frosinone away at Juve, they get that penalty, because the defending was just, it was unbelievable. And I tried to praise Musacchio last week for how he seemed to have developed a little bit. But Kev, this was just ridiculous.
No, it was just stupid on his part. And I know sort of Vito says about you expect Juve to get that sort of decision at home, but we've got VAR now. If you're stupid enough to make that challenge, and the slightest of touches is going to get picked up on the VAR. It always looks worse in slow motion replays, and you can't really. I was going to say you can't not give it, but then Milan weren't given there, so.
Right, well, I'll stick with you for that one then. Do you think Milan's was a penalty?
I can see, well, yeah, so these are always given. I think, particularly with VAR now, these would always be given. And when we have on the same weekend the example at Lazio where they get theirs, the balls, there's this seemingly rule now where if the ball is going into the direction of the penalty area or towards the goal and it changes direction based on striking someone's arm, whether they meaningfully put their arm out there, if it strikes their arm, if their arm's in a not necessarily unnatural position, but as part of the process of trying to block or make a tackle, your arms come out and you've diverted the ball into a different direction. I can see why that's given because you don't know where it's going to fall in the box. And when that ball hits Alexandro, it goes out for a corner. You know, there was nothing faint about the touch once it struck his arm. You know, there was maybe a question of how close it was to his body. But
Yeah.
he's dived that he's no longer on his feet. So he's dived to put as much of his body in the way of the ball. And it was quite shocking that they didn't get it, even for the amount of times that a home side may get a call on the border go for them rather than against them. But with VAR, I just couldn't understand why it wasn't given.
See, I don't think this is a penalty, and this exposes flaws with the handball system because it is still open to interpretation, which it shouldn't be. Because, like you say, you see those given so often, and I'm sure with half of Serie A's referees, it would have been given as a penalty, and with the other half, it wouldn't have. I don't see how this can be a penalty because going to ground is perfectly legal. You are allowed to slide in, and what is Alexandro supposed to do with his arm in that situation? If you try and slide in any situation, your arm goes there. And I think to be frank, Alexandro did quite well to have it as close to his body as he did, because it's not like he can just temporarily remove it or make it an object that can be passed through. This to me is a problem with the rules about balls and not so much with the individual decision, because the decision, the rules as they stand, leave it to the referee's interpretation. And I 100% agree that there's no way a penalty could be given for that. And
that's what they need to resolve, though, how the referees are interpreting it. Because if they say to them, you know, if the ball strikes their arm in the area, they're not standing upright. They're not a yard away from it, you know, because those two decisions this weekend were not that dissimilar for one to be a penalty and one not to be a penalty.
Yeah, this is the problem. It really is. They have actually announced new rules with regards to a lot of things in football, particularly handball, to take effect from next season. And you'll be happy to know it's just as vague and interpretable as it currently is. So this discussion is going to be happening for a long, long time. But I've just had a tweet in response to the FIF account to say that Alexandro's handball is clear cut. So there we go. I think this discussion is probably a precise sign of exactly what's wrong with it, that we watch football every week, we see decisions like this every week, and we still can't decide whether or not it should be a handball based on the rules. But let's move on from the penalty chat. And let's go on to some equally upbeat things. Moise Ken, Vito, he scored a big goal after a really, really horrendous week for him.
He's still keeping up his good form, and it's great to see. After the racist scenario at Coyote, where the fans were making racist taunts at him, yeah, it's great that he keeps his head up and he can provide some vital goals for the Bianconeri. And it's good that he shows that he lets the football do the talking.
I thought Moise Ken has been so admirable this week in the way he dealt with everything. He was racially abused for near 90 minutes against Cagliari and scored a goal. Pretty big release of tension, I'm sure. And he stood there silently with his arms out wide, and he managed to get criticised by his own teammate, Leonardo Bonucci. Kev, what did you make of this?
It was idiocy, wasn't it? On another level, I think even the backtracking after his comments were shocking. I put a tweet out at the time when I saw the comments from Bonucci, just saying that it can never be the person's fault for scoring a goal. You know, we have all been in a stadium and as an opposition fan where somebody has scored in front of us, and we probably give them dogs abuse, but never based on their race, ethnicity, country of birth, whatever it is. You do have that pure anger at someone scoring against your side, but they're just mindless. They're mindless idiots. For Bonucci to suggest that in any way that his reaction to his goal inflamed that system, that scenario, or went any way to to being a fault on his part was, if those two players had been sort of similar age, stages of their career, won the same things, you'd think that would cause an absolute rip through the dressing room. It's only because it's an extremely senior member of the side and obviously a youngster coming through that it probably hasn't caused a larger disruption to the Juventus dressing room.
No, I think it's pretty appalling, to be fair. Even just on a kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but on the basis of team spirit, surely Bonucci should be sticking with Ken, irrespective of his skin color. Bonucci should just be saying, yeah, the Cagliari fans were out of order. Ken did nothing wrong.
Absolutely. The response should have been, no one deserves to get that sort of abuse. That's it. Whoever it is.
I don't understand how you could even say anything other than that, especially Bonucci's then his post-match Instagram and social media updates were all about him. He's like, I've played my 250th game for Juve and I scored a goal. I'm great. And while this is happening, everyone is going mental, and understandably mental, because Bonucci said what he said, and it's just ridiculous. And I'm quite disappointed, but not surprised that Juventus didn't make him properly explain himself, not through Instagram, through actually coming out and speaking about what he said, why he said it, and just having to actually face up to the things that he made, because he basically endorsed racism in certain situations. He says, yeah, Ken shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have done that, but if Ken does that, what's he expect? Like, it's to say he deserves 50% of the blame is just absolutely mind-boggling, but sadly, it's not really. It's frustrating more than anything else. But yeah, I did write something very, very quickly on that if you want to head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com and read that. Anyway, Juventus playing the Champions League this week. Manchester United. Vito, do you fancy their chances?
Well, Juve, yeah, they're playing on it.
Hang on. Yeah, what have I said? Sorry, I've been writing about...
You said Manchester, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're writing about... I was thinking, yeah. Look, I think there's a good enough team for Juve to win against Ajax in Amsterdam, even without Cristiano Ronaldo. So I'm not showing any disrespect to Ajax or underestimating them, but just on the basis of the squads on paper, even in the Netherlands, I think Juventus are more than capable of getting a result. And again, a little dig at Allegri. I think it's Allegri's to lose. Not so much.
Interesting way to frame that. We'll see what happens. Anyway, let's not go too much into that because we have spent 20 minutes already just talking about these teams. Inter-Atalanta. Kev, it ended scoreless, and both teams will probably be happy with a point.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously there was the opportunity for Atalanta to jump into the Champions League places, but you still got to consider that they were playing third in the league. You see a lot more of Atalanta than I do, but they looked really nervous at the start of the game. I don't know if that's how they've been sort of approaching games in the sort of first 10, 15 minutes, but they seem really, really eager to sort of push the press, and those I think players are skipping past them.
This happens a little bit with Atalanta because of the way they play. It can often be interpreted as nervousness, which I guess sometimes it could be, and you could understand that, I guess, today. But yeah, a lot of the time they're just quite eager, up and at you, and sometimes it doesn't quite work early on, and I think that was the case today.
I think the way they hit Bologna on Monday. Was it Monday? No, midweek, wasn't it? It was one of the midweek fixtures. I think the way they hit them, maybe they had that in the back of their minds as well. So they thought, that on the back of that confidence, they just thought, let's just try and go, get an early goal. But once they settled down, it was, like you said, it's a fairly even game. Gomez had that opportunity in the second half where it just flashed across his diving body.
But Zapata was missing, and it told, really. But I've seen a lot about Atalanta, Vito, on them social media things this week, and a lot of people seem to be saying that, and I don't understand this. Tell me if it's just because I support Atalanta or not, but a lot of people seem to be saying that they don't want Atalanta to get the Champions League because the Milan clubs are better equipped to play in the Champions League. But surely if Atalanta qualify, that means they are.
Yeah, I got to disagree with the notion on social media. I think a lot of people, and I'll use this word, they are scarred from the last 10 to 15 years. All these third or fourth place teams, these smaller clubs that have got in, at least when there was a qualifying round system of the Italian teams just self-destructing and not putting up much of a fight. Personally, I think with Inter Milan, the historically big clubs, they got big fan bases, and they do have more money than Atalanta, but they're underachieving by their standards and what most people expect of them. Atalanta have a limited budget, and Gasparini in 3 seasons has given them an identity, a style of play that's probably been missing in my lifetime of watching Atalanta. Atalanta's been known for the youth academy, but there hasn't been a coach like Gasparini to really bring the best out of those talents, and he's done that. Not only that, Atalanta's also found other players to help those players grow. What a lot of Serie A fans are probably scared of is that historically Atalanta don't have that big record in Europe. But Gasparini did a good job, it was last season when they were in the Europa League, and they were probably a bit unfortunate to be eliminated by Borussia Dortmund. But it's those qualifiers, notifications, sorry. Okay, so a lot of people, I think they're scared of teams underachieving like Lazio has done a couple of times in the last 15 years or so. There was Sampdoria losing in 2010 to Werder Bremen, but I blame Domenico Di Carlo because he's a rubbish coach. Chievo's results now are proof of that, but there's more to it than that. And a few other teams that finished fourth, they didn't really make it. But the worst one was Udinese. Honestly, they did make the group stage in 05-06, but every other time when they qualified, absolute disgrace. And I'm sure Serie A clubs and fans are sick of that because they want to see Italian football back up. And I reckon a lot of people just have those fears. But I see the way Atalanta run as a club and what Gasparini did in the Europa League. I've got more confidence in Atalanta than what I would have had in Udinese 5-10 years ago. So I don't really expect a repeat of that, despite the way Atalanta were eliminated from the Europa League this season. I think the Copenhagen situation is a bit of an exception. I got more faith in the Atalanta project.
I'd agree with that. This year was an exception because Atalanta couldn't score goals for the first 7 weeks of the Serie A season, and now they're the highest scorers in Serie A, along with Juve. And they got knocked out on penalties, and one of the players who missed the penalty is no longer at the club. So I read it that way, you will. But
see, I find this quite amusing because UEFA changed the Champions League setup with a kind of an eye on the Super League to remove the qualification stages for leagues like Serie A and also for La Liga. And then you've got potentially Atalanta squeezing into the Champions League spots. You've got Getafe sitting in fourth in, so it's going completely against what I think they wanted to do.
But what do you make of Atalanta, that this current team, hypothetically, this team as it currently exists in the Champions League?
I think they're a bit too open.
Well, look at Ajax, Kev. They're not exactly a shut-up shop team, are they?
Yeah, no. I don't know, but Ajax. I'm trying to think of how the seeding works. Which are the leagues that get the top seed anyway? Because they're the league winners, aren't they? So Ajax would have got that last year.
No, because they were in a group with.
I know because Russia gets a seeded spot.
Yeah,
I think if you can grind your way through the group stage, then you may be all right. Then it doesn't really matter too much because you can sometimes outscore somebody like Real Madrid.
Ajax were in a group of Bayern Munich, so they mustn't have been in the top.
No, so then they weren't top seeds.
Yeah, and people would have thought that Benfica would have done something out of that group too, because the only weak link was Ajax Athens.
But I don't know. I think it would be quite exciting to see them there. And it's easy to forget. Last time they got to the group stages proper of the Europa League, they didn't lose a game They beat Everton 5-1 away, and they were 7 minutes away from knocking out Borussia Dortmund. So they've got pedigree for doing something that people don't necessarily expect from them.
Yeah, like I said, still much better than what anything Udinese has done in a long time.
Okay,
Only the 09 UEFA Cup.
Yeah,
It's an
true.
exception.
True.
With Quagliarella.
Vito, Inter. We're going to go to Inter because the boy's back. The captain, the snake, he's back in the team. Mauro Icardi playing football. What's happened there?
I suppose Spalletti's just thrown the towel. Maybe a lot of people are speculating he's just made it about him, I suppose. But when you look at the situation, whatever it is, if it was something between Spalletti and Icardi, or if it was Icardi and the club, either way, you can't have your best players out for too long anyway. So even if deep inside you're not really happy with the player or the situation, you've got to find ways to just be as professional as possible and then try to do the best things for the team and to obtain results because, especially based on last week where they lost to Lazio, you could tell that Icardi's presence was really missing and they needed a centre forward. So they got the big win against Genoa. They couldn't get the 3 points against Atalanta at home, but Icardi's just one of those players that, look, in the long run, regardless of what you think of him as a person or what you think of his wife as a person, as a footballer, he's someone that can be beneficial to a side, especially when he's putting the ball at the back of the net.
Yeah, but he's barely done that since November, I guess. Kev, I'm getting back into Twitter polls, so I did one the other night, and I said, are you Icardi? Does Spalletti or do Inter now look weak, or did they absolutely need to play him again? And 69% said they absolutely had to play him again. What do you think?
No, I kind of agree that they had to play him again. You do wonder if they were in, say, Napoli's position with a little bit more of a cushion for Champions League, and maybe even if so, you take the scenario that maybe it's Insigne at Napoli. With the other attacking prowess that they've got up there, they could afford to play hardball with him. Inter don't have that luxury because everything goes through him. Even with Martinez's upturn in form, they just couldn't afford to take that chance. It's too risky.
There's no question that Inter or Spalletti kind of panicked a little bit and said, "Oh, we need to play him for the Champions League." And I think it shows something of a weakness from his standpoint because he tried to make a big point that, okay, Icardi, you're gone. You don't exist. And now he's backtracked and gone back to him.
I don't think anybody expects Spalletti to be there either. Like next year. So I don't think if they're gonna retain Icardi in the summer, it doesn't weaken the coach's position because the coach will not be there.
Do you not think so? Because then should he not care even a little bit less?
One of them has to go.
I think they both will.
Well, yeah, but I don't think both can stay.
Me too.
They can both go or one can go, but I don't think both of them can stay.
If Inter keep Icardi after this, I think it just shows that he is holding them.
But who's taking Icardi after this?
Real Madrid. Like someone will buy him. Paris Saint-Germain will buy him if no one else will. He will find a club. He's one of the best finishers in the world.
Yeah, I don't think he'll find. I'm not as convinced that he'll find a club of the level that he thinks he wants to step up to after Inter.
Well, yeah, he's not going to go to Europa League.
Because Real Madrid, for all the prestige and obviously being able to afford the probably extortionate fee that Inter want for him, they are a bit of a circus. It's still, 2 titles in best part of a decade. Okay, they're the trio of European cups, but that only sort of papers over the mediocrity that runs through the club most of the time.
I'm trying to go through it now. Chelsea would have him, but they might not be allowed to. City, no. United, maybe? No? Liverpool definitely wouldn't touch him. Spurs, no. Real Madrid, Barcelona, he's probably burnt his bridges at Barcelona. Because Messi hates him or something, doesn't he? So that wouldn't happen. Bayern Munich.
very left field, but Lewandowski's not getting younger despite scoring a few goals against Dortmund on the weekend.
And Bayern are going to actually spend a lot of money this summer by their standards. They're planning to spend the biggest amount they've ever done after years of saying that we will never.
Yeah, I don't think if they're going to spend all that money to bolster a squad, they'll potentially try and purchase someone that could be a disruptive influence.
They have, yeah, but I mean, they brought in Robin and Ribery not so long ago, who were these makers. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's doing a disservice to Robin's professionalism.
We're overlooking the obvious team here, which is where, let's be honest, he's going to end up. Juventus.
Wow. Again, I think this has painted him in such a bad light that I think even Juventus might be reconsidering any offer.
Oh yeah, because no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I'll bite my tongue because I'll get us in trouble. But yeah, Roberto Gagliardini. He's been up and down pretty much ever since he went to Inter. He was excellent against Genoa and not so excellent against Atalanta. Vito, is he just not at that level?
Personally, I don't think he's at the Inter level. He's probably more suited to a team like Fiorentina or Lazio, in my opinion. That being said, let's say Spalletti goes at the end of the season and they bring in Antonio Conte because supposedly, according to the reports, he's more favoured than Jose Mourinho at this stage. I reckon a player like Gagliardini would fit into Antonio Conte's methods. Just, win the ball, run your guts out and keep things simple. So probably in Antonio Conte Inter, he might actually serve a purpose. Under Spalletti or even another coach, I do have my doubts.
And Antonio Conte Inter is a strange sentence that we might have to get used to saying, which is quite bizarre. But anyway, we'll move on because we did spend quite a long time on the first game. So we are going, Vito, to the Marassi, where Roma surprised a lot of people, really, by beating Sampdoria 1-0. Kev, they needed a hero. And the ultimate hero, Daniele De Rossi, stepped up and got the goal.
Yeah, it was one of those games where it was only ever going to be a scruffy goal from, one of their talisman, really. I was quite disappointed with both sides considering what rested on the game. The opportunity to sort of get into the European places for Samp and then for Roma to reignite their sort of challenge for Champions League places. They just, considering the changing coach, I just don't know what's going on with Roma.
No.
1 minute they looked like they wanted to play for Di Francesco. He went, and then it looked like they just weren't good enough under Ranieri. They don't. Then yes, on Saturday night they looked like they just weren't really thrilled with however Ranieri had set them up. There's the bones of a good side there, but again, probably the most important decision for them this summer is who's going to sort of take over the reins there.
Yeah, it can't be Ranieri, really. It could be Marco Giampaolo. I mean, he'd probably do quite a good job there. Vito?
He has been linked with the Roma coaching job for next season, and he has been linked with a couple other clubs too. I think even the Milanese clubs are reportedly interested, but the Roma one is an intriguing one. I think his coaching would suit Roma, and he'd have a stronger squad to work with than what he does at Sampdoria at the moment. But there's just something about Giampaolo, I don't know. He comes across as the kind of coach that might not thrive under pressure very well. And he's had that stagnation in his coaching career. So really, I think he's done well at Sampdoria, maybe over the 3 years. I think he's done what he's been capable of. But if he goes to Roma, it'd be like Di Francesco leaving Sassuolo for the Giallorossi. Big expectations, bigger pressure being in Rome, the capital city of Italy and one of the most historical cities of the world. So I think he's got the players to play his football, but depends on the demands. If they're expecting Champions League football with a coach like Giampaolo, who's never coached in the Champions League or even coached in the Europa League, from memory. I think that's where I'd have my concerns, that he hasn't shown enough for me to show that he can take the next step, that he can really exceed expectations. Probably in terms of player development, yes, he can improve plays. But for the team to get bigger results than what they expected to, I'm not convinced as yet.
I think the Roma job would suit him quite well, because he's walking into a situation where the squad has been built to play that type of football. They've had a couple of years under Di Francesco where they've been playing that type of football, and I think he would do quite well there. I was surprised because I saw you tweeting about this, Vito, and you were saying you'd be happy to see him go if Sam could get a better coach under the proposed new structure there. But who is a better coach that they could actually get?
Yeah, well, that's going to be very tough because there aren't many options free on the market yet. I was actually speaking to a few people on Twitter again. That seems to be the thing. Let's say Gianluca Vialli and the York Capital Group or Investment Group, they buy Sampdoria off Massimo Ferrero. Depending on how much they invest, I wouldn't mind them taking a chance on Di Francesco and giving him a bit of money to build the squad, because I do still rate Di Francesco as a coach. I think just there's too much politics and pressure regarding Roma, whereas at Sampdoria, I don't think he'd really get that. I reckon he would get a bit more time to work on his methods, and even if he goes to a high and then has a bit of a slip, I don't think he'd be crucified like the press would or the Romanisti would, get into him. So I wouldn't mind Di Francesco. Not only that, what I like about Di Francesco is, he usually plays 4-3-3. This season's been more of a 4-2-3-1, but I'd like a coach probably that doesn't play with that trequartista, because Gaston Ramirez and Ricardo Saponara, they're good on their day, but they're too inconsistent. So I think that's where Di Francesco would offer Sampdoria something different, that you can't just rely on your number 10 these days to be that creative outlet.
What you need, Vito, is to get a number 10 like Papu Gomez, and all of your problems will be solved. But I do think maybe, hands off, by the way. But maybe,
don't we think this is quite sad?
What?
Well, Vito's just said that he'd be happy for Gianpaolo to go if Sam can get a better coach. And then his first suggestion is the former Roma coach. And this is my argument, is why did they not give Di Francesco more time?
I agree.
He had less than 2 seasons.
Because they're nuts.
Yeah, but you have less than 2 seasons. You've got a youngish players there. They obviously invested in bringing in those players. Oh, why? The frustration.
No, I completely agree, because they panicked. They completely panicked. The club was, I don't know what was happening, but there was a really negative and toxic atmosphere around the place. They got knocked out of the Champions League in a way that could not be blamed on Di Francesco. And they completely panicked, got rid of their sporting director and their manager at the same time, and decided to start afresh by bringing in Claudio Ranieri.
You'll make mistakes.
Yeah. And
that is what you learn from. But now he hasn't got the chance to have next season to effectively rectify those mistakes. Everything's a learning curve, and they just don't give these guys. And the thing is, you often see them come back round sort of 18 months, 2 years later at another club, and then they excel, and then they maybe get another big job, and then they don't get enough time in that again.
Yeah, but it will be quite funny if they did just do a coaching swap, right? So Gianpaolo and Di Francesco just swap jobs, and you'll see the same cycle. Di Francesco will do as well as Gianpaolo has done at Sampdoria. Sampdoria might get bored, move on. Gianpaolo would do a similar job to Di Francesco at Roma, realize that Roma aren't Juventus or one of the next 2 teams, and Roma would panic and get rid of him too. And then they'd go to Atalanta or they'd go to Fiorentina, and they'd do similarly fine. I don't know what these teams are actually realistically aiming at, because Roma were still knocking on the door at the Champions League, and I don't know what they are. They're still knocking on the door now, but you're right. It does just seem completely pointless. All of this sacking, it's a little bit depressing and mind-numbingly dull to talk about at times. But it's just I can't wrap my head around it either, Kev. To be perfectly honest with you, because my next point on the running order is that Kluivert, Schick, Cristante, and Zaniolo all started, which are the players that they were brought in, all quite young, all with their futures ahead of them, all still learning, and now they've got to learn something completely different. But is there something there for a new coach to work with, whoever it is?
Yeah, definitely. I watched the game. Oh God, my week is completely just gone. But yeah, midweek against Fiorentina. That was when he dropped Olsen, he put in Kluivert, he put in Zaniolo, and you think, there's talent there. But somebody's got to be able to give him time to work with them. Sorry, you're laughing because I mentioned Olsen, but he's gone. He's gone. He's gone.
You mentioned Olsen being dropped, and then spoke about two players who got brought in. Neither of them for him.
No, wow. Okay, well, yeah. Mirante is significantly older than both Kluivert and Zaniolo.
Right, Olsen was dropped. Kev, you happy?
Well, yeah, you've got to be, haven't you? I'm not a Roma fan, but I think even the Roma fans must be ecstatic at Olsen's out.
I'm quite disappointed because he was and he made me smile every week.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons.
Well, I'm not a Roma fan, so it doesn't bother to me. Vito, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, at least with Antonio Mirante, he made a fine fingertip save from Gregoire de Freux in the first half. So, based on Olsen's form, I reckon if Olsen was still there, that probably would have been a sump goal.
Oh, 100%. And there probably would have been 3 more as well, just because Robin Olsen would have thrown the ball into his own net. Did you guys see, was it Choupo-Moting for PSG? Did you see his miss?
Yes. Yeah, I saw that tonight, yeah.
How did he do
that? You have to see that.
Vito, I'm using the word literally in its most literal sense. He was literally on the goal line and he hit the post. I don't know how he did it.
Oh, man.
Go through my retweets, Vito. You'll find it.
He had to hit the ball.
He traps the ball on the line.
Angle, and he managed to not do that. It was unbelievable. But anyway.
Coming to a Serie A club near you soon, next season.
Yeah, Roma. Let's be honest. While we're on Samp, actually, the interview with Jacopo Sala is now up and live. You can read it on ForzaItalianFootball.com, or you can watch it on ForzaItalianFootball.com, or somewhere on this very YouTube channel if you're watching us record this live. So do that. Anyway, Napoli won, Genoa won. I don't care about this, Kev. Napoli didn't seem to care about this, and I think Juventus don't even probably care about this.
No, I know before we came on, you said about Napoli not caring about it. I don't think they care about the league, but I was out enjoying some pizza, so I only saw the highlights. They battered the Genoa goal at times, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
I had to watch the highlights back to work out if I was watching replays of the actual shots, but
I'm glad you said that because I had it on a stream. And you know the way sometimes streams just rewind themselves?
Yeah.
I thought that was happening. I thought I was just caught in a loop, but no, it kept ticking along. But yeah, but they didn't take any of the chances. And if they were more switched on, they probably would have.
And you'd like to think they will in midweek, maybe. Yeah, but I suppose there's nothing to indicate why they would not take them tonight, unless it's just they were using it really as a sort of a shooting practice.
Let's speak about midweek, Vito. They do have Arsenal in the Europa League. I think I've got that fixture right, and I've not mixed it up with like Villarreal or something, have I? But it's going to be tricky for them. Arsenal did lose this weekend as well, but it's not going to be easy.
No. Look, Arsenal, they're not what they were 15, 20 years ago, but still a strong enough team. They made the semi-finals last season, so in the Europa League, Arsenal will still provide enough of a challenge for Napoli, but I think Napoli will do much better than what AC Milan did against the Gunners last season. I think Ancelotti will get his squad formation and rotations right, so I think they're in with a chance.
I think they had a huge slice of luck with the second leg being moved to the San Paolo.
Was that?
Because UEFA didn't allow them to play on the same night as Chelsea.
Oh,
So Arsenal had to switch the tie, and I think after being at the San Paolo this season when Napoli played Liverpool, I think if they can get a decent result in London on Thursday, I think that's a huge advantage.
it might not be the point, but why have UEFA done that? Because it happened with Sevilla and Betis in the last round. So they
It's
made
to
Sevilla
do
play on
with
Wednesday
it's to
night.
do with policing. It's to do with the fans coming into the city on the same day.
No, I get that completely. But to reverse the fixture is unfair on Arsenal. When it happened with Sevilla and Real Betis in the last round, and Sevilla just played on the Wednesday.
Yeah, they've done it with Manchester United and City in the Champions League quarterfinals as well.
That must be something to do with English police then, is it?
I'm not. Oh, I'm not sure. It's obviously the City trying to cope with that many fans coming in at any one time, but it then goes on your league position from the year before. So because Arsenal finished below Chelsea, they were the team that had to lose their home advantage for the second leg.
That has to be an English regulation. If they've
Well, I've seen it in Turkey where they've made Fenerbahce play on a Tuesday.
yeah,
I know that happened earlier this season, I believe. And then Galatasaray or Besiktas played on the Thursday and so they just moved the fixtures around, but they didn't make them switch the ties. They just made them play them on
yeah,
2 days before.
exactly what they should do. That's it. Anyway, I'm getting too annoyed with that. I'm going to look into that. Ben is in the comments. He says, "Hi guys, hello Ben. Send us a question or something. Would be more."
Hi Ben.
I don't want to criticize. All right, let's forget about that. Lazio 2, Sassuolo 2. This was dramatic late on, Vito.
Yeah, it was. Well, Lulic got the equaliser in the 96th minute, and yeah, after getting a couple decent results in big games, Lazio nearly lost to Sassuolo, which had been in a bad run until they smashed Kiev 4-0 midweek. Yeah, another point, but yeah, they probably should have been beating Sassuolo, to be honest. They did take the lead through Immobile earlier, but yeah, it's these kind of games that Lazio should win if they really have Champions League aspirations.
Yeah, Lazio fans, I'm so sorry because you always seem to get overlooked and you already hate us. But we've spent too long on the teams and we want to talk about the relegation zone, so we're going to...
No, wait. Is there anything funnier, though, than watching a side score in the 89th minute, all of the players and coaching staff run to the corner, and then they still don't win the game? I take so much pleasure out of that. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, no, me too. It's fantastic. It really, really is. But I celebrated Sassuolo's seemingly winning goal a lot, so then I felt silly when they lost it. Not quite as much as the Sassuolo players did. Ben's a Forest and Parma fan. We'll move on to Parma maybe in a bit, but that game was dire. Okay, let's go to the bottom because things are heated down there. Frosinone beat Fiorentina 1-0. Udinese beat Empoli 3-2. Cagliari beat Spal 2-1. And Bologna-Chievo is tomorrow. Fiorentina 0, Frosinone 1. Kev, is there any chance Frosinone can stay up? They're only 5 points off safety now. And they've won their last 2.
I've been saying for weeks. Well, I've just been referring to Chievo and Frosinone as relegated for weeks and weeks and weeks. And obviously, mathematically, yes, I think they will come up against a tougher opposition than Fiorentina were today because it was like watching a pre-season fixture. There just didn't seem to be any energy from the Fiorentina players. Well, other than Chiesa, who's always kind of energetic and drags that team along a little bit.
Rubbish game.
Frosinone's got an awful running, haven't they? I'm just remembering a couple of weeks ago I looked at it and I thought they've got some really tough.
Right, I'll read out there. We've got Inter at home, Cagliari away, Napoli at home, Sassuolo away, 3 points. Udinese, Milan, and Chievo. So there are some wins. They could beat Chievo. Udinese.
They probably get 6 points from Sassuolo and Chievo and maybe Udinese.
They could get 12 points there, mate.
Yeah.
They could easily get 12 points. And if we're looking at the Serie A table now, the highest place relegation team is Bologna on 27 points. It'll probably be about 33-ish points to stay up this season.
Yeah. You imagine Bologna will climb out tomorrow beating Chievo.
Yeah, you would expect, and then Empoli fall back.
They're at home as well.
But I don't know, 33 points could do it, and you could see Frosinone just doing something absolutely mad, which would be amazing.
That's bad, isn't
I wouldn't
it?
mind doing
33
it.
points.
Kev, what did you say?
That's bad, isn't it? 33 points to stay up.
It's not very good, but even the points tally for the Champions League is probably going to be quite low. But anyway, Vito, do you reckon Frosinone will do it?
I'm going to be pessimistic and say no at the moment. I just think that Bologna under Mihalovic have really turned a corner, and the way he's brought the best out of their attacking weapons, I think they are capable of staying up. And Empoli, they just got to make sure that Francesco Caputo's scoring. So, and they put Andreazzoli back, and they play better football under him than under Beppe Iacchini.
It will be interesting to see how Bologna bounce back, because they, for 15 minutes against Atalanta, they were absolutely pummeled. And they've got, I mean, their fixtures aren't exactly the most difficult in the next coming weeks. They've got Chievo, and then they go to Fiorentina, who have nothing to play for. They also play Empoli, Parma. Before the end of the season, they've also got, they play Napoli, Milan, Lazio, Sampdoria. It's not the easiest for them either, but it's going to be interesting down there between now and the end of the season, that's for sure. All right, any predictions? I think I did predictions last week, but Kev, can I get your bottom three prediction?
I'm still going to go with Chievo and Frosinone, and then I'm going to have Empoli just to drop in there, I think.
Same three as me. Vito, your three? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, everyone. Sorry, everyone. Look, I'm going to stay the same with you guys as well, because it's only 2 or 3 games, but since Udinese hired Igor Tudor, they just look better offensively now. So I think they're going to be okay. And Rolando Mandragora, he's been pulling out a couple nice goals. So
yeah,
he's pulling out a couple goals, which are good. So it's something.
There you have it. Then we all say Empoli will go down. So Empoli will stay up. Put your money on it. It's going to happen. All right. Parma Torino. Torino had a big chance to put the pressure on the teams above them. They put the pressure on the Champions League, and they didn't take it. And someone tweeted me to say along the lines of, Torino always get to here, but they can never get to here. And it's kind of true. And Mazzari deserves a lot of credit, Vito, despite what you want to say about his system at Torino, because it's doing some good stuff for them. But should he be held accountable for their lack of creativity?
Oh, absolutely. With Mazzari and his Torino team, it's been more or less, caution first or defend first approach. And yeah, I think it's a bit unfortunate that with Mazzari's tactics, they're not really bringing the best out of Belotti, despite his recent turnaround in form. And also, they got other attacking weapons like Falque, Parigini, a few others too. And then Oleaina is good when he's playing on the one of the wing-back positions, as well as De Silvestri. So, and then Baselli, when he wants to do well, he can score some nice goals or provide some good assists. But I think with Mazzari, it's about the defensive phase and the off-the-ball movements than what they do on the ball.
Parma were really there for the taking, because that was a second-string team. Bruno Alves was gone. Bastoni didn't start. Grassi's got his long-term injuries. Gervinho wasn't there. Inglese wasn't there. It was basically Kuchka, Sepe, and you know what I think of him, and the rest of their mates. It was a poor team, and Torino didn't do it. We've got a question about this game. Hi guys, what are your thoughts on Simone Zaza? Kev, will go to you. I'm desperate to see him scoring and playing more.
Well,
I'll tell you what he did on Saturday, shall I? He came on and sent off. He came on and just started elbowing Gagliolo. He gave him one elbow, well, two kind of, because he went with his right and then his left. Got him once, got a yellow card. Then he did the same thing again, got away with it. He should have been sent off twice.
These are about the only things that did happen in the game.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, Zaza strikes me as someone that now realizes that he's not gonna, make it in air commas. you know, that he's had his shot at a top side, and he kind of just has that air about him that he's just happy to pick up a paycheck, play football.
Do you think? I
I
care
mean,
too much.
He's 28 now, or this year he will be. So, yeah, it does look that way. But I don't think he's properly utilised.
I'd agree with that. He's not in a team that suits him very well. On paper, him and Belotti should work together with Falke behind, but it doesn't happen enough. And if Andrea Belotti, Simone Zaza, and Iago Falque were playing for Atalanta under Gianpiero Gasparini, they'd be scoring a lot of goals.
I'd believe that too.
Yeah, I just can never work out what Zaza is as an attacker. Is he, could he play through the middle on his own? Could he play part of a two? Could he come off wide? It's like he's still been searching for where he'd fit in a system and somebody could build something, around him.
I think he's Diego Costa light. He's just a little bit mad. He runs around a lot. He likes to get in fights, and he can finish. But I don't know. It's a strange one. But yeah, speaking of Mazzarri, this was the most terrifying press conference I've ever been to. He was mad. He was fighting with people, not physically, sadly, but he was getting in arguments. If anyone dared to say Torino missed a chance, he was calling them out on it. There were long, aggressive, silent pauses and stares. It was amazing. One time he made eye contact with me at one point, and I didn't like it, Kev. I'll be honest with you, because he was very, very angry at the man sitting in front of me. And then the man kind of stopped looking and started typing while Mazzarri was speaking to him. Mazzarri was staring at him, trying to get his attention. He stopped speaking, then looked at me as if to be like, get him to look at me again. So I just didn't do anything.
Who broke the eye contact first, you or Mazzarri?
Oh, absolutely me. But not long after I did, Mazzarri went, oh! And then the guy looked back at him and he gave out to him for being rude, which was fantastic. But yeah, Mazzarri press conferences are always a pleasant experience in one way, I guess. But guys, I think we've made it to the end. Have we?
Well, we've covered a lot.
We have.
We spent a lot of time on those other games.
Yeah.
So there's one game we didn't speak about. I just want to make one point because it annoyed me. So I tried to watch Cagliari Spal.
Okay.
How do the officials or the club allow Viviano to play in an all-grey goalkeeper kit when Spal got white shorts, white socks, and a light blue stripes?
And he wears the number 2 as well, which is
every time the ball got tossed into the box from the corner, I couldn't see him. I had no idea where the goalkeeper was.
That's the idea. He's there. He's trying to trick people.
It was frustrating for me, and God, for anybody sitting on the bench, they must have been wondering what was going on.
Are you all right, Kev?
Yes. No, it just annoyed me. I've just seen it on my notes, and I realised because it was annoying me.
I know that when you hit like a certain age, your eye
yeah.
deteriorate a little bit. But no,
I've been like this since I was about 10, though.
Do you remember back that far? Sorry.
Yes.
Guys, Serie B was interesting, so we're not going to talk about it, but go over and look at the race for promotion because it's always good, and this year is no exception. Lecce drop points. Brescia are going to come up, and Atalanta and Brescia will kill each other next year. But anyway, guys, we've got it. Kev, thank you.
Pleasure.
Really?
Yeah, I'll go get in a stair lift and go up to bed.
Vito.
Olsen didn't play. He was happy. Yeah, thank you, Connor. It's another good chat.
And thank you from me, guys. Right, until next week, when not quite as much football will happen between us speaking, head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com, read all our articles, our features, our everything, get our reaction for when Juventus inevitably win the league. I will hopefully be there in Ferrara for it. And yeah, follow us on Instagram, Forza Italian Football, Twitter at Serie A FFC, and what's the other one? Facebook, ForzaItalianFootball.com. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.